We should talk about Oliver Glasner, Jules, mentioning that he'll be on his way out in the summer and saying that he wants a new challenge. Could that new challenge be the role as Manchester United manager?
I think he will be on the short list and he would surely be interested in a club like that. Whether they will choose him, that's another matter and another debate. He was out of contract, or he's out of contract in June. We knew that he had already rejected 2 offers from Crystal Palace to extend that contract, so it was pretty obvious he was not going to stay after this season. He actually told Steve Parish and the board at Palace back in October that he was never going to sign. I think it's good for them to still trying. Now there's no point trying because he's made it official that he was going to leave. I don't know exactly because I'm not too familiar with the Crystal Palace history from before the time I moved to England, but he has to be one of the greatest managers ever, really, when you think that he brought them the FA Cup. They are very much amongst the favourites to win the Conference League and bring a European trophy to Selhurst Park as well. So I think, as sad as it would be, I think, for the club and fans to lose somebody who's had such a positive impact on the football club, I think they will look at him as, you know, one of the greatest memories that he brought to the football club, and he really took this team and this club forwards. Now they can't really get wrong the next one after him because it won't be easy to follow Glasner. But for him, I think he showed enough there to be amongst the contenders for bigger club jobs.
Jules, why would Areola from Bournemouth not be on that list? Why would, if I'm Manchester United, and let's make it a clear race between the two of them. If it's Oliver Glasner or Areola from Bournemouth, surely you've got to take Areola. Why would they take Oliver Glasner? I don't get this Oliver Glasner thing.
No, you're right. I mean, there's a good debate. I know, probably not for maybe tonight, but Glasner really did it at Palace and at Frankfurt. And I'm not saying they're two small clubs because they're not. But it's not United or Bayern Munich or Juventus or Liverpool or City and clubs like that. And I think there's a bit of a skepticism might be a little bit strong because at some point, you are allowed to try a top club and you may well succeed. But I think there's a bit of that, okay, can he do it in that kind of pressurized environment with those kinds of dressing rooms and egos? You know, it's not Mateta, it's Cunha, it's not Wharton, it's Bruno Fernandes, those kind of guys. And for Iraola, probably the conversation would be slightly similar because so far it's, the smaller clubs in Spain and then Bournemouth. But Iraola is younger. The only difference is Iraola is not out of contract, so you will have to pay a fee to get him out of Bournemouth. And that won't be cheap, obviously. But I agree with you. If I had to choose between the two, if I'm Ineos or Ratcliffe or Wilcox, whoever Barada are United, I'll go for Iraola every day. This Arsenal team has been built and has been kind of structured not to play with the traditional number 9, because otherwise, if Saka is used to having a traditional number 9 there, he crosses that ball first time every single time, even on his wrong foot. And Gyökeres scores that. Whereas the second cross should never come to Gyökeres because Sanchez doesn't make the mistake and he stops the ball and the ball. So that's not the right pass. The right pass is the first one that Saka doesn't make. This is a team that has been for so many years used to play with false number 9, with a Gabriel Jesus, with a Kai Havertz, with a Merino. And Gyökeres is very different. And that's why I still think that he's still adapting to this team and the team is still adapting to him. He should have done better so far this season. He should have scored more. He should do more during a game, not just scoring, but sometimes his runs, for me, are just not clear enough. There's a few things that he should improve on already. But I thought that this goal was typical of what's happening with Gyökeres at the moment. He will score goals. He will get to 15, I think, this season in all competition. But you could see, for me, that Saka should have crossed that ball. But it's just not in the mindset right now to play that way.
Before I'll go on.
All I would say is that apparently we're not cool enough to be part of the chat group between Jules and Nadim.
I do want to get.
We don't get the messages, apparently.
And I want to know more about this chat group before I get the striker's opinion on this. Give us a bit more than Nadim about this conversation from your point of view.
Yeah, it's more so, as I've been watching him play throughout the season, like it's fair to say that he is a good player. You could argue like a very good player, but for the way that Arsenal play, at times it doesn't seem like he suits them. There are so many games where at times he almost feels anonymous, and it's good that in some ways, yes, he can battle it out with the defenders and so on. But when he comes up against a bunch of defenders who've got the same sort of physicality as him, then it all of a sudden doesn't look the same, doesn't seem of a benefit to Arsenal, and maybe there's a certain amount of control that they lose in a game because, say, he's involved in that manner. And yes, he's a great finisher, and Jules makes a good point. If the service is first time, then great, you'll probably score more goals, but maybe that's not the strength or the tendency of those Arsenal players. So I try and think to myself sometimes, like, He's a good player for them to have, but I don't think if they win the league this season, it'll be because they signed this number 9, which so many people have been talking about for the last, say, couple of years. Because I think for me, the way that Arsenal are, their strength comes in the collective, not necessarily 10 people potentially trying to feed one. So yeah, I see his benefit, I see how good he is, but even like to sum up that goal the other day, there's good fortune that leads to it. And in some ways, like, it felt weird seeing all the Arsenal players rally around him say, oh look, well done Victor, well done, everybody celebrate Victor, he's finally scored. That doesn't really seem like the type of energy you'd have around a striker who's potentially going to propel you towards the league title.
Would you like to state your case from the Forwards Union here?
Well, I mean, it's in the same neighborhood of sometimes what we see from Manchester City and Erling Haaland. That it seems like he's just a passenger in the game when Manchester City has decided, as they do many a times and for long periods of time during a match in which it's just passing around the box, just passing, and they don't take advantage of what they have in front of them, which is, in the case of Erling Haaland, a world-class striker. Now, I don't think Gyökeres is at that level, but if indeed you're going to take advantage of a number 9, he needs, and this is not a mystery, he needs service. He needs service. And if you're a striker, you live and breathe and die on service. And I equate it as a source of life. If you're a striker and you're getting service, you're more likely to make the next run and to make the next run after that, because you know in your heart, in your soul, you believe that that ball is coming. When that ball doesn't come and you've made one run and you made a second run and you made a third run, when there's the fourth run, you're like, well, I don't know. I don't know that it's coming. I don't know that I'm going to get the service. And it limits your game. And I think Gyökeres is a guy that is not going to create on his own. He needs service. And it affects every part of his game. And that's the part that he should address, that it shouldn't affect every part of his game. But his movement stops, his level of activity stops, and it's because he knows, as the guys have referenced, that the service is probably not coming.
Stevie, Kai Havertz is back. Has Gyökeres done enough to keep Havertz out?
You'd have to say right now no, because Arteta keeps picking him. You know, Arteta clearly thinks eventually he's going to come good and get the amount of goals that they brought him in for. But I think Ali's comparison with Haaland and Gyökeres tells you why Haaland is an elite striker, because he's worked it out. He's figured out whenever certain players have got the ball, whether he can make the run or not make the run, and he figures out that he's in the right place at the right time. Now, Gyökeres was in the right place at the right time for that goal we just showed. But the previous game, there was one ball that wasn't across the 6-yard line. Gyökeres wasn't there because he hasn't worked out yet who does what when and where should he actually be all the time. That's the difference between the elite striker and Haaland, who's figured it out, and Gyökeres, who hasn't figured it out.
It's for you that he has to back him after the coach himself took responsibility and blamed himself for those mistakes.
Yeah, I think so. But if we go back to last summer when they were trying hard to sign Mike Maignan from AC Milan, it's obviously obvious, but they clearly didn't believe in Sanchez. Otherwise, you don't go and spend some money on Mike Maignan at his age as well, if you really believe in either Jorgensen or Sanchez. So the fact that they could not get Maignan, I don't know why there was no plan B there, because there are surely other goalkeepers that maybe not as good as Maignan, but still better than Sanchez, somebody in between. But clearly with Maignan or nothing, they went for nothing, and they stayed with Sanchez and Jorgensen, and now I think there was always a mistake in Sanchez. Even if I agree with Nedum, he was a little bit better so far this season. And that's why they wanted another goalkeeper like Maignan last summer. So I think in the summer, they're going to clearly going again. Maignan won't be available this time because he's about to extend his contract at AC Milan. So they will have to find somebody else. But if you are trying to sign one of the best goalkeepers in the world in the summer and you don't, that is clearly a really bad indication of how much you trust your current goalkeeper.
Talking about trust, when you're a defender in front of a goalkeeper who's made those mistakes, what does it do to your own confidence?
Oh, no. every time you look behind, you go, oh, jeez.
Wait a minute, but I could say the same thing that Robert Sanchez could be saying about the defenders ahead of him.
Yeah, but
turning the ball over, trying to play out of the back. I'm just saying.
Do you know what? I can't get over the fact that he's turned around and said, "I'll take the blame for that, for the goal." I mean, what are you talking about? How can you take the blame? Your goalie's come flapping, and then he's actually just completely missed one. How can you take the blame? I mean...
I think he said he was asking him to do things that he doesn't normally do.
What? Save it, catch it.
Catch the ball.
Catch the ball.
Yeah.
Catch the ball. I know you don't normally do this, but I want you to catch it today.
It's such a typical move for an incoming manager when things don't go your way to say, guys, it's not on you, it's on me. It's on me. You're trying to buy some sort of equity with the players, and the players know. You know who knows? Robert Sanchez knows that he has made a mistake. So all of this, it's more for press conference material than it is for what actually goes on inside the locker room.
Yeah, so that's one of the games coming up this weekend in the Premier League. There are plenty of them. We will, of course, be discussing them on ESPN FC. All gets underway with a big one, the Manchester derby between Manchester United and Man City. We'll see how Chelsea do fare, and if we see Robert Sanchez between the sticks against Brentford. And as the match day rolls on, it is Nottingham Forest, as we've been discussing, against Arsenal. Nedum and Jules will be joining us on the latest edition of Extra Time to answer more of your questions. Check it out over on our YouTube channel.